Hey there, Landria with digitalexplorers.net founder. Yeah, what is that? Well, I come from an investment banking background and I want to share some stories with you. I'm gonna put all kinds of great advice for you, guidance for you for online businesses, but I'm also going to share some stories about the traditional world out there and some stories that may be shocking for you. And today is one of them. Let's go. Welcome to digitalexplorers.net on YouTube. All right, so I'm going to share a little story with you that was prompting me more and more to get out of the financial world, something I didn't even choose. Have you done that? Are you in something you never chose? If somebody sat down and said, would you be doing this for a living? If you can say, yeah, I love it, yay, you're probably in the less than 1% on the planet. Somehow we get into things and sometimes we think we know what we want to do and then we start doing it and it's not what we thought. Yet we don't feel like we can get out of it, especially if you got a degree in it. But there's a percentage of people out there gutsy enough to say, it doesn't matter if I have a degree. If I'm in something I don't love, I need to make a change. And so that's what I did. After about 20 years in investment banking, private equity, in all different kinds of roles, it wasn't just one thing, I realized there was no fix to what I was experiencing, and that was great corruption, greediness, lying, and even if people weren't breaking the laws or rules, because we were licensed, there was a lot that they were getting away with that I thought was just the reason why the general public really doesn't have a really good fair shot at benefiting from the financial markets. It is not geared in the public's favor. It isn't. Somebody has to pay for the overhead and the big salaries, right? And so I don't want to be pessimistic about this because there's some great companies out there that really care. But the truth is that it is not geared in our favor. So I've never been a stock market player. I have a portfolio, but it's very conservative and it's doing quite well right now. Now I have some friends who are losing a lot of money. And I want to share something with you that is not conspiracy, but I want you to think good and hard about this. This might shock you a little bit. When I was in private equity and I was going to some of the firms, I would stop in some of the firms on Wall Street and talk to them about our deals. Somebody who I was very good friends with, pretty good friends I should say, with who owned, or I should ran one of the brokerage firms. It was a smaller firm, we call them boutiques. They were doing what's called pink sheets. And that's the small board, you know, NASDAQ. And also pink sheets is when they're really small trades and they actually literally took pink sheets of paper and tacked them, and then when they had a trade, they would switch things out, right? It's sort of weird, take the paper. Yeah, well, that's all gone now, I'm sure. But that led us to some great misuses. Let's just say it opened things up to great misuses. So one day my friend, and I will not name him, he's definitely not in the industry anymore, said to me, do you know how we make a lot of money on this? And I said, no. By picking good stocks? He says, no, Landria, you know, McFly. He said, what we do is, when we have a stock out there, I have people, when it's low, with different company names, we open up a bunch of different company names. He has people out there, businesses, that would then buy up the stock. Now, as they're buying the stock, it appears that this stock is moving, that who's buying all this stock? Oh my gosh, what do they know? And then they would put it out there that the stock's moving. You know, then there's this whole PR campaign that goes on out there that basically says, you know, all right, look at this, price is skyrocketing. And of course, then he would have people buy at certain levels. Well, what would happen is everyone would have a certain point when they would get out. So he'd make a phone call and he'd tell them, you know, we're going to dump. Do you remember the movie Wall Street? That is actually what goes on. Unfortunately, most people don't get caught doing it. So he would dump. And so these companies who at the time couldn't be tracked because our systems were not as sophisticated as they are now, could dump stocks, and it would be very difficult for the SEC to track them or figure out who they are, or if they were doing anything at all that was not on the up and up. And he said, so, if you want to get in, I can tell you when to buy, and then I'll tell you when to dump, and you're guaranteed this nice little windfall. It had nothing to do with the company itself. And the companies, of course, hurt because of it. This was not coordinated with the companies. This was coordinated through the brokerage firm. Now, the worst part is then there are people out there that short the stock. They bank on the stock going down. So that other game is being played. If you know about shorts, then you know that it's a dangerous game. I used to call up these brokers and beg them not to short our stocks when I was working with a company. It shouldn't be that way. That was very, let's just say, I don't know if it was common practice, but it wasn't unusual, let's put it that way. And it wasn't just small firms or pink sheets. I actually knew some people in some pretty big firms who were doing some trading that was, let's just say, not allowed. Now you might say, why didn't you turn them in? Well, the truth is that I couldn't really prove anything. There was no way for me to say who did and didn't know anything. And basically they're adhering by rules, and all these people were licensed. I never purchased a stock under those circumstances or benefited from it. In fact, it sort of made me sick to my stomach. These were some of the things that I realized are, if I knew about it, were common practice. Now, I want to ask you right now what's going on out there with the markets, and if you're losing sleep over it, I want you to think good and hard about this. Oh, by the way, the story I just told you, I've never told before. Never told before, because you just want to talk about these things. But I've been out of the industry for quite some time, and these people are long gone, and I haven't named names. But what I want to share, and actually, frankly, can't even remember the names at this point. But what I want you to know is that if you are concerned about the markets, some of your best decisions aren't always going to be logical. You might say, this is going on, so this will happen, and it may not be that at all. In fact, there is no way that people in high positions, money positions, aren't taking advantage of certain things that are going on now that the general public's petrified of, because their automatic response is to get out. Well, we know, buy low, right? You have to be able to sit on it, and you have to pick good companies that have a pretty substantial market out there. There's no guarantees of anything. It's like gambling. It's like going to a casino. Is that how you want to live your life? I couldn't wait to get out of that. I just couldn't wait. Like I said, I'm not gambling with my money. Yeah, I just bought a couple stocks the other day just for fun. No big deal. Yeah, just for fun. But the truth is that when you create and own something yourself, and you control it, and you earn through what you're doing, and you're not relying on somebody else's decisions or investments or anything else, if you have something really solid and of value, you're never going to lose. Now, marketing's a big deal. I'm at a point right now where I'm scaling, and that is a very big deal. We want to go to the next level. You got to get yourself out in front of people, and that usually takes money. So we have to be careful of everything, every step, and ask ourselves, how is somebody on the other side benefiting? What are they actually giving? And do your homework. Do your homework. And this is the problem. People, they trust. I watch these shows, American Greed. Some of the best salesmen in the world could sell their grandma to somebody else. I got to put my fan back on. And it works. And then even when things go south, they don't want to believe it. I want you to be savvy. I want you to be smart about every decision that you're making as best as possible. Now with the internet, you can make pretty good decisions about companies, right? So I want you to just take a look and ask yourself if you are operating out of panic or greed or fear, or if there is something else for you to do that could possibly be more fulfilling, create some kind of stability. You're going to have to work for it, we're on planet Earth, And if that system out there just isn't really ever going to work in your favor, and you're going to continually be disappointed in it, right? Up and down, and that's life in general. So I shared this story because I don't think people realize how much it's controlled by people's personal decisions and what they're going to gain. Anytime you deal with large amounts of money, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on that's like I said, not working in our favor. So I'm going to share more stories from Wall Street. Yeah, the stuff that went on, there's some really crazy stuff that went on. I think I'll have to share some of those stories. If you haven't had my free webinar for digitalexplorers.net, we're creating planet-conscious online businesses, entrepreneurs who want to do good things for the planet, but most of all for themselves. If your journey is worthwhile, it's not about that end or that money you're going to get. It's about how you're going to earn it, how you're going to get there, and what you're going to experience along the way. That's the most important part for me, and it might be for you. So that's a free webinar, the 5 critical steps to success online. And I really mean that. Without these 5, probably don't have any chance of hitting those goals. I'll see you in the next video.